Good morning, everybody. Today, this is a mixed martial arts commentary, MMA commentary from Standing Bear Thunderheart. And today, this topic will be about Alistair Overeem and his recent drug test fail from the Nevada Athletic State of actually Nevada State Athletic Commissions. Excuse me on that. And this was reported about a few days ago that Alistair Overeem failed a pre-fight drug test that he had supposedly had actually have steroids in his system. And when I saw that, I was like, what? Oh, no way, not him too. And that kind of really caught me by surprise, if anything, because Alistair Overeem seemed to be the guy that really was so good in what he does. I would thought to myself, what could possibly make him, want to get steroids now? I mean, is he injured? Is he trying to heal himself fast? I don't think he was trying to get an unfair advantage through certain techniques or punching or try to knock someone out fast, because he can do that well on his own without even the steroids. So I even imagine what could possibly make him do these things. I mean, did someone put him up to it? Did he not think that he was able to really do things in the long term? I mean, what's up with that? And so that's what really got me by surprise. Of course, what also got me by surprise not too long ago too was when Christine Santos, or known in Strikeforce as Cyborg, when she lost her welterweight women's champion due to the fact that Dana White stripped it from her, due to the fact that, of course, she was caught with steroids in her system as well, after beating Gina Carano and some other contenders, defending the belt from the other contenders too. But what got me was that Christine Santos, Cyborg, was on steroids too. I was like, wait a minute, she seems so good. Why was she doing steroids? This MMA, and I've warned this to everyone in the past. I've talked about this publicly about steroids in MMA, and it's becoming a trend, I have to say, and it's not becoming a good one. It's not a good trend that is starting. I mean, a lot of there are certain fighters who are now putting themselves you call this male enhancement, testosterone treatment, and all this nonsense. Well, I already explained that to you in the past, and for what I feel about it, and to me, at the end of the day, it is still steroids, regardless. And so, I mean, now that Alistair Overeem has to have a hearing now in regards to if he's going to continue to be licensed, or if he's going to have his license taken away from him, and if that's the case, how long would it be to take a license away from him? Would it still be a year suspension, like everyone else had, or was it going to be something more severe? I don't know. But one thing is for sure, it's just that every time when someone gets caught, it just seems that other people are doing it too. It's just that they haven't been caught. And I mean, Dana White even recently got so angry. I remember just reading it in the media that he started saying all kinds of F words and just different kinds of curse words regarding Alistair Overeem. Yet, where was that passion? Where was that fire in Dana White when Chael Sonnen was caught on steroids, or where other fighters were caught on steroids? Nate Marquardt, he definitely had his say about that. But where was all that anger and that passion when all these other fighters were caught on steroids? What was that? And that was something that I started questioning Dana White on. But yet, that's another thing too that I started asking myself this question: why are certain fighters get attacked so much more for certain things, and not more over the others? I mean, Alistair Overeem, yes, he's a nice guy, and I guess to me, the fact that he's a nice guy, yeah, he's ruthless in the ring and in the cage and so forth, that you would not think that he really needs steroids, And yet, I guess Dana White got to a point where he's finally had enough, or maybe he's just favoring certain fighters, because I remember a long time ago he did not care for Alistair Overeem too much. He didn't talk well about him. He didn't even consider him one of the best MMA fighters in the world because he didn't fight for the UFC. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Alistair Overeem, despite all that, is he has really proven himself in kickboxing, K1, and also MMA. I mean, he's the only fighter who has actually won both MMA and kickboxing titles at the same time. I mean, how many fighters can say that? Not too many that I can think of. Not too many. I mean, simultaneously? No way. And also with Christine Santos as Cyborg, sure, she beat Gina Carano, the former champion in Strikeforce. But here's the thing. Of course, many of course, during their interviews, the interviewers would ask her, what do you feel? I mean, do you feel that she cheated? Do you feel, how do you feel about her with the steroids and so forth? Of course, Gina Carano was really ladylike. She was calm and cordial, and she just basically said that she hopes that she gets help and things like that. Of course, she didn't make any excuses of why she lost to Cyborg or anything like that, but she has to have that question in the back of her mind. Couldn't I have really beaten her if she wasn't on steroids? Was she even on steroids when she fought me? That's the kind of deal. And and that's good. When people get caught on steroids like this, it leaves doubts in so many people's minds. It leaves a lot of doubts. And the thing about it is, Gina Carano may not have said it out loud on TV, or may not have said it to the media, but I know if she said it out loud, she's either saying it to her training camp, people in the training, or her family, or she's just keeping it to herself. But the bottom line is, it leaves a lot of doubts in people's minds whether Cyborg could have really taken on Gina Carano if she wasn't on steroids. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, sure, Shell Shonen tried to use steroids to take on Anderson Silva with a broken rib and still couldn't get it done. So obviously, steroids isn't an answer for everyone's problems, or really none at all, for that matter. I'm gonna do my best not to take too long with this. I just want to bring this up because, like I said, I've actually told this months ago, and I've said this again and again. That this is becoming a trend, and people need to start taking this a little more seriously. And I don't think people are taking it seriously enough. There hasn't been really stricter punishments besides taking license away. I mean, what else do you have to do? Sure, Stephan Bonner lost sponsors and so forth like that, and by actually having a stricter punishment upon Stephan Bonner, he actually learned not to be doing that anymore, and he learned what he has lost so that he could be able to appreciate what he had, and therefore work on it again even harder to get the things back even further. And that's what needs to happen more. Stricter punishment needs to start happening more with MMA or UFC or whatever. And I've suggested this, and I've suggested this again, that when a fighter does come back from having steroids, you should put him at the very bottom of the card. I mean, put him at the very bottom and have him work his way up again. That will really deter a lot of fighters from using steroids in their system. I mean, not just taking away sponsors or licenses, but also having them, forcing them work their way back up. I mean, that could be more frustrating, if anything else, than to put someone at the bottom of the barrel. Think about it. Think about it. And so, with that being said, I would like to see what Alistair Overeem has to say about this, and what his deal will be, or what's going to happen, and then who Junior dos Santos fight if Alistair Overeem does not succeed in the hearing of it. Who would he fight next? And of course, Frank Mir and Cain Velasquez will be fighting each other still. And I guess none of them are going to bump up to fight Junior dos Santos, which will suck. But I'm sure somebody will. Just UFC, pick somebody already. You got good heavyweights. You got Matt Mitrione. You got Travis Brown. You got Stephen Struve. I mean, Brock Lesnar is gone. That doesn't mean that you can't, take other heavyweights now that are ready to go. I mean, pick somebody. Pick somebody. Just prepare to pick someone anyway, just in case Alistair Overeem does not make it. Just put it in your mind now. Just pick someone. But in any event, What do you guys think about this whole thing with Alistair Overeem being on steroids and various other people like that? And by the way, before I go, I just want to also tell you that even though Nick Diaz was not on steroids, and yeah, he was caught with marijuana once again in the system. Now, I actually had a debate about it with a friend of mine the other day actually about a few weeks ago about this, and he told me, of course, that he basically that Nick Diaz deserves to be suspended and everything else, and I can kind of agree to it to a certain extent, but at the same time, and that may sound hypocritical, but I gave Nick a pass about it just because it's marijuana, and I don't feel that marijuana is a bad thing in comparison to steroids. Compare and contrast. However, I do know what the rules are. I do know that, of course, marijuana is supposed to be illegal. So something that's supposed to be illegal needs to be taken seriously. But yet, so are steroids, and yet it is supported. It is not being taken as seriously as marijuana. I mean, think about it. I think it's ridiculous that Nick Diaz is made as an example once again of what not to do, only because I believe it's because he's. I mean, and not to mention, don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily like the guy too much myself. However, I do know he's an exciting fighter, and I respect him for that. And even though he can't enunciate worth a crap when he talks, or he's not the most educated guy around, he's not business savvy. He just does not have that social skills that a lot of these fighters do have. Even though they may not exhibit it themselves, but they know how to at least present themselves in the public eye and everything. And Nick Diaz pretty much has this, loose cannon attitude. Like he does whatever he wants, goes wherever he wants, says whatever he wants, and things like that. And so he does not toe the company line, and that's I know that's one of the reasons why he's made an example of in such a big way by the media and various other things like that. And I think, do over marijuana, but yet, like I said, all these other fighters that are caught on steroids aren't necessarily being blown up in a big deal because they are friendly, or people like them, or fans like them, or they don't want to lose money and everything like this. And I think, like I said, that needs to change. So, another question is, what do you guys think about this whole Nick Diaz situation? And do you really think that they're treating him, they're basically demonizing him for something of a less threatening than it is steroids, where other people who are well liked are doing steroids, but they're not necessarily. In other words, the media is being too soft on them. People are being too soft on them, and there needs to be stricter punishments for these people as well. If you're going to punish Nick Diaz for his marijuana use, then you might as well be strictly punishing all of the fighters for their use. That's all I'm saying. And Ken Shamrock said this best: either you legalize steroids, so everyone gets on steroids and everything becomes a playing field, or we're going to keep it illegal. Make the punishment equal for everyone involved. So that's it. Like I said, if you have comments or questions or opinions, just go ahead and just put them down at the bottom of the YouTube, and that's it. I basically have said my piece about it. Now it's your turn. Take care, everybody, and have a great day. Healing, it is all that is.